The facade study was a two-step process, and the first step was to essentially generate the pattern. Within that, we had to define the panel dimensions, and for that we used a very simple kind of Fibonacci-like sequence, if you will, where the first panel is 1 unit wide, the second is 2 units, 3 units, and then 5 units. So this started to set up kind of a set of rules or the kit of parts for the panels. And then what we did was created a sequence of how often a panel repeats itself, or the pattern repeats itself. So here it's every 4 panels. If you look on the very bottom row, you'll see we get a medium, medium, small, small before it repeats, medium, medium, small, small. So by being able to kind of increase or decrease this repeat, we can create more unique kind of pattern within each row. The last thing is this seed slider down here, and what that does is essentially gives us a different iteration. And see, my repeat's now set for 6, and within these first 6, the seed's going to give me a different iteration or a different grouping of how those 6 could be arranged. So between these two sliders, we essentially could create an infinite number of patterns kind of on the fly before we kind of came up with one that we were happy with. Looking for things like not too many small panel groups in areas, not too many large panel groupings in other areas, things along that line. The second step then was to actually set up which panels would become glass versus solid to achieve our optimal gain, solar gain within here. And to do that, we could essentially use a slider here to dictate the number of panels that were solid, and you'll see as that decreases, i.e. making more glass panels, the percentage of void here is increasing. So that's a 71% void of that surface, and as I adjust that, you'll see that that percentage of void adjusts accordingly. And again, we do have a seed slider within here. Now, we could sit here and try to adjust these sliders to achieve some sort of total gain of, say, 40% here. But we're going to use Galapagos instead to do that, in which the Galapagos assigns an ideal goal, and we'll set that at 40%, and it uses these two sliders to adjust that. So as I go ahead and run this, I'm going to go ahead and set my fitness to be that 40% number up here. I'm going to go ahead and run the solver, and you'll see what's happening. Slide this over here aside. As the Galapagos is running, it's adjusting these sliders, and in turn the percentage of void is being read out and trying to achieve that ideal 40%. As we kind of go through a series of iterations, it's literally doing thousands of iterations every couple seconds to come up with the best combination. And here you can see my outputs, my top outputs so far are a combination of getting about 40.1%, 40.1%, 39, and so on and so on. I'm going to go ahead and stop the solver. Any of these top 10 results are kind of acceptable. They're plus or minus, 2% basically. And if I wasn't happy with the patterning, again, I get too many kind of combinations of solid and void happening here, I can go ahead and reinstate any of these previous iterations to get a pattern that I'm a little bit more pleased with. And that's how we're using not only Grasshopper parametric modeling, but Galapagos' evolutionary problem solver to come up with a pattern that we were happy with.